out to be completely unreliable assholes.
Hello, Tim.
Ryan,
Hi.
how are you on this lovely, rainy, gray LA day?
Great, because it is a lovely, rainy LA day.
Mm-hmm.
I love this weather, Tim. No
best.
joke. I came in here singing. I was just so stoked getting out of the car. I don't know why. Just rainy weather. I just love it so much.
It's quaint.
Maybe it's because here it's like, as like birthdays, just because they become, they happen less often than
Like once a year.
Yeah.
They only happen once a year.
Exactly. They're that much more special.
Yep. Well, it also reminds me of like where I grew up,
Me too.
which I moved here to get away from. But like, it's nice to be, have a reminder of this weather.
This for me is the reminder of, my NorCal roots.
Yeah.
Which,
It's apropos to this movie.
the Stepfather is what we watched. Very Pacific Northwest.
Yeah. It is Seattle, right? Like Seattle suburbs.
Anyway, wait, we shouldn't get too far ahead of ourselves, Tim.
Welcome.
Welcome everyone. Tim and I were just talking like you weren't even here, but you are here because you're hearing these words right now. You're here with Dismembering Horror, the podcast show where myself, Ryan McDuffie, and
Myself, Tim Aslin.
we dismember a horror film every week. We talk about what worked for us, what did not work for us, and anything we found interesting or noteworthy. Mm-hmm. It's basically a show where I'm feeling bad about saying bad things about movies, and Tim tells me, that's okay, Ryan. You're allowed to not like things.
That's true. You're definitely allowed to not like things.
That's the heart. That's what's really going on in the show. And what
We
the
don't
show's
all
about,
have
people.
to be, like nice.
But there's people
It's nice
involved,
to be
Tim,
nice.
and it's just so sad.
Yeah, but we're
that-
not saying that they're bad. We're just saying that they failed.
that they did not work for us.
That's right. Yeah, we're not even saying that they suck
Yeah.
or that the product sucks. We're just saying we didn't like it. Mm-hmm. Somebody else might.
Right.
They might.
So this is all just to help me feel like I'm allowed to have an opinion. Welcome to Dismembering Horror.
I mean, Jesus. If you think you're not allowed to have an opinion in 2019, you are mistaken.
Yeah. I don't know.
Everybody's got an opinion.
Right. Right. And I think it's those who like maybe I am.
You're worried that you're going to be adding, a negativity to the Discord.
Yeah.
Discord?
Well, I just don't feel like I have an in between where either like I'm an ineffectual nobody or I'm a domineering asshole. And so it's hard to slip into like what I feel good in when that the forcefulness seems perceived asshole qualities in our world at large. But I do think it is our natural introverts, and like anyone who looks bad on a quality is probably best suited to that quality.
Yeah. Well, and here's another arrogant way of looking at it.
See, my point exactly. We just gotta clarify it with that.
Theoretically, or potentially, the things that we point out, and if it gets absorbed by anybody who also is attempting to make things, and they can avoid the pitfalls that we've, observed in other films and make their films better, we're doing this great service to the world.
If they agree they are pitfalls indeed.
But even if they don't agree, it's more information for them to
disagree with.
Or to use and to put forth in their endeavors.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I always say, like, too, when introducing our show here, like, we hope that inspires you to think critically, whether that means agreeing or disagreeing. It's all good in the end.
I think this is all to say that this movie fucking sucked.
Say that again. This movie?
Yeah, that we watched.
The Stepfather. This was actually one of our recommended films. This was inserted hat pull from a friend. When we first started our podcast, they were like, oh, you got to do The Stepfather.
The original, they wanted the OG.
Yes.
Okay.
She's of your era. as far as just generation wise,
Okay.
coming of age wise.
What are you trying to say?
Meaning
That I'm
for
old?
sure that she's nostalgic about a 1987 film.
I think we've learned, well, no, maybe this isn't true. I was going to suggest that often when we go back to the movies we thought were great that we haven't seen since then, so to speak, we go back and we go, ooh, shit,
Yeah.
that did not hold up.
Or we do.
But I think that's specific to only
Yeah.
the ones that we haven't seen since then. Like fucking Arnold, right? Like Peter was like, oh, I haven't watched it again since then.
Nor does he want to.
Right. And I'm like, well, you motherfucker.
It's still, fun to hear us have to talk about it, I'm sure.
Because even now, like watching, like Disney Plus has all these things from, movies that I liked as a kid. I go back now after not seeing it in 30 years.
Yeah.
And it's like, woo boy.
I wonder
what
if
did I like?
But what is that distinguishment? Because, like, we have, like, The Goonies is an easy one, or Ferris Bueller's. Just as far as, like...
But we keep watching those.
Yeah.
They hold up enough that we keep watching them, and then we build an appreciation for them. Whereas if you've just watched it when you were, 9, 10 or whatever, and maybe you saw it a couple of times, or maybe you saw it 10 times then, but not any times since then.
I think it's just that feeling of just... I don't want to say it's just nostalgia. Maybe it's out of nostalgia, but just that this movie made me feel this way as a kid, so I want to feel this way still. And then when it doesn't, it can be earth shattering.
Well, and I think there's also the experience of you as a kid. You fill in a lot.
You're much more accepting of all these things.
So, like, I just watched Willow. Being all fucking hyped up because I was like, fuck yeah, Willow. I haven't seen that since I was probably 15 or 13 or something like that. I don't know when it came out, whatever. But remember thinking this is awesome and really liking it, and like listen to the score and shit, and reminded of how much I like Willow. And then the movie starts and I'm like, this is kind of shitty.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of stuff in it. Like, some of the fucking effects are.
I think that can, at the same time, more like it's good we grow critical as an adult, and then that way we can go into the world and put out things that are, we hopefully are good or whatever, or more likely to be. But like at the same time, I think it's kind of like, I don't know. It's sad that we've sort of layered on all this critical stuff that we can't just be in that very forgiving, just having the thing add up to itself way, accepting at face value,
it's funny
really getting into it.
Yeah, it's interesting to see kind of where that line is.
Well, I think the thing that above all else still puts us in that place is when the performances are there. Like an actor doing the role will key you into it. It's like Roger Rabbit is still great because of Bob Hoskins,
Yeah, absolutely.
All the old Star Wars is.
Yeah, I mean...
Like, I can hear my friend saying for this one, if you're about to say not so nice things about the Stepfather, I can hear her already just being like, yeah, but it's so good. Like, and there's something to that where you can watch these old films from your past and it's like, yeah, but that doesn't matter because it's just great,
Right.
And I think that's all we're talking about.
I'm sure there are movies that I objectively know are shit, but subjectively just adore.
Yeah.
And I'm like not thinking of any off the top of my head.
It's because the paint color is great.
Right. Speaking of paint color.
Let's talk about painting houses.
A lot of white walls in this movie. Big faux pas. Don't do it.
Our DPs of the world would not be happy.
Fucking A.
Well,
unless you're throwing blood on them. And ironically, the one wall that gets blood on it has wallpaper on it. I'm like, what the fuck, guys?
Should we get a better look at that wallpaper and watch the trailer?
We should.
All right, here it is. We've been talking about, or we're going to be talking about even more, The Stepfather, 1987.
Morrison isn't his real name.
What is it?
God knows, we don't. His personal history was falsified and his prints were untraceable. It was possible Morrison had done it before.
You can call me sentimental, I don't care. I have beautiful friends, I have a wonderful new family. What do you think? Can we give this little guy a home?
Sure.
That's my girl.
He's a wonderful man, and he wants to care for us. I don't know. There's just something about him.
Oh, that guy in Bellevue that killed his whole family. Cut him up with knives. Maybe they disappointed him. All we need is a lawyer around here. You're a good boy. He's a good boy. Isn't he a good boy? He's Daddy's little angel. Hi, honey.
He's just some crazy creep. Don't you talk to your father that way. He's not my father.
Great.
You know what? Before we get into it, I will defend your friend insofar as I can get behind the kind of what I was saying, like the subjectivity of it. It's like the kitschiness and the on the noseness and the fucking like, you know, the push in on the girl when she like has a realization kind of vibe. That whole thing is great. It is great for that. But objectively, if I can get as close to that as I can, you know, it's pretty shit.
Yes, and to use that as a segue into our rating, what do we tell ourselves to avoid it, stream it, rent it, or buy it? I'm like pretty conflicted between those two extremes where like I don't think it's not a good movie, but it's got a lot going for it entertainment wise. I think I love, especially in kind of doing our notes afterwards and seeing how much added up and what actually worked for me, like just the ideas in it. They don't coalesce. It's just in that sweet way you want like a movie to, but they're there.
That's that's a good thing that we should kind of debate. Yeah. You know, like why don't they coalesce?
Yeah. They're just because it's like it's got a few different things going on that are sort of like overlapping, but they never congeal. However, I don't know.
I think there's some things to speak on in things that did not work.
Great. I don't have much to say. Yeah. Great. I'll be curious to hear them because I'm curious.
Cool. So what'd you rate?
I don't know, man. Because I was going back and forth. Where like after leaving it, I wanted to put it as like a higher stream it. Meaning it's not like Trench 11 where it's like, yeah, watch it because I guess there's a couple cool things. Like I enjoyed the whole experience of watching this and it was fun, but I didn't walk away being like, oh, this isn't some like secret classic that I was hoping to discover. It's not quite that, high. Yeah, at the same time, then after the fact, sitting on it and then kind of watching it when reviewing it and doing the notes and remembering like all these, his freak out scenes, how good they were, how satisfying they were, how like all the actors overall were fun, the setting. I don't know. I also want to give it the lower tier, rent it.
Ooh, I hate to say it, but when I was driving around yesterday thinking about it, maybe I was not in a good mood. I was like, fuck this movie.
Yeah.
I was like, fucking, I'm going to be in a void. But
to make a point.
But now I'm kind of like, after a day, it is funny.
Yeah,
it's kind of fun and funny.
Great, like, and also too, I always get hung up on promise of the premise, pursuing potent possibilities, as I put it. There's a lot of that in here, like things that you couldn't do in any other movie that were just super fun and satisfying. Yeah. This punk was trying to rape our daughter.
God, that moment, fucking amazing.
Yeah, right?
Like just that, well, and obviously we'll get into it, but to me, the on the nose and like over the topness of certain aspects,
I think
it's doing the movie more favors than harm. I think. Okay. Well, it's sort of towing a line.
Yeah, that line, I think because of what all that, like that obvious stuff is working in service of an idea, a story, and a character that I think I'm just fascinated by and have a lot of fun with, like whether how good the final execution is or not. I'm just gonna maybe for my friend too. I'll give it the lower tier. Rent It. Wow. Like if you haven't seen this and you're someone who would enjoy this kind of protagonist, when he's not quite an anti-hero, he is like the bad guy, but he's still like the main character. But just like the kind of stuff it gets into with having that kind of person and just all the commentary therein and the metaphor therein, like I love all that enough where I'd be like, yeah, no, if I didn't see it, I'd say like see it once enough. Like if it wasn't available to stream, I would want to, I'd say it was worth renting. If it didn't have the actors along with that, I wouldn't have given it that.
Definitely. I am so torn because just on the virtue of Terry O'Quinn, like I could almost get into a Rent. But man, there's some shit in here that just pisses me off. So
it seemed like for you watching it that just whenever though we had the B story of the dude, like the renegade dude, you were just so into it that
yeah, I mean, because I'm like bemused by the tropes of that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is. And it's just so it's so on the nose.
And there's just some pretty big holes and just like if you all could have seen the faces Tim has just made when I said that.
God. I think my eyes just went in two different directions. They were rolling opposite of each other.
So I think it's good that we also, yes.
I'm going to give it a stream.
Good. I think that's good. Because I think I am being pretty nice by giving it a lower tier rent.
It got like 4 fucking sequels. Or maybe just 3, but whatever.
There's 3 of them total. There's Stepfather 2 and 3. The second one has Terry O'Quinn in it still. Third one, someone else, and then the remake. So enough to warrant a box set. All right. We got to stream it and a rent it. Yeah. What's next? Or summary?
Okay. All right. Yeah. So what's his nut? Terry O'Quinn.
Yeah, because, look in the official listing. He plays Jerry Blake / Henry Morrison / Bill Hodgkins / the Stepfather.
Wow.
Let's just call him the Stepfather.
All right.
Which is what you started doing during the movie, right? Did you start calling him the Stepfather?
The Stepfather. He's not my father. It's the Stepfather. All right, so the Stepfather is a serial killer, basically. He's a family serial killer, and his whole game is find a widow, newly created
vulnerable widow.
How do you? I don't know.
Whatever the criteria is,
a new widow who has kids, so he can swoop in and become the stepfather, and then ultimately kill them.
And at the core of who he is, which is what I get, I think why aired to Rent. He is someone who is obsessed with this idea of perfection, quote unquote, and like the image of the happy American family.
Right.
So it's a whole movie about someone being driven to do exactly the opposite by trying to achieve that, which I think is great.
Yeah, I think that's called irony.
Yeah, I love irony.
Yeah, it's good to have. Yeah, so the story is he gets into a new family and the daughter in that family suspects that he's a fucking weirdo.
Thank God we actually have, someone who's aware enough and has good intuition, willing to trust it enough to know he's not one to be trusted.
Because the mom sure as shit doesn't.
Yeah, and she's totally right when she says, he's not my dad, he's just someone that we've known for a year.
Right. Like, Jesus. Excuse me. So the only other thing that's going on really is that the brother of the mother who was killed in the family in the opening by the stepfather is, trying to track this guy down because nobody else seems to give a fuck.
Yeah.
That this dude killed the family and then just fucking drifted off into the night.
Yeah, his name's Jim. So just this renegade guy, Jim, the brother of the previous murder victim, is like trying to get him. And then we also have Stephanie's the daughter.
Right.
who's so yeah, it's basically just the stepfather trying to thwart Stephanie.
16-year-old Stephanie. I think this is an important point that I'll come back to.
I'm 16 too, man. Remember?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, as far
What
as
you're
what else
doing is illegal.
what else is going on? Yeah, the daughter Stephanie is like kind of Nancy Drewing it up,
Yeah,
and he's
she tries
thwarting
at least, yeah.
thwarting that, actively trying to, and then we see him also actively then transitioning to the next family once things start to get a little dicey.
Yeah, it's like once there's something that triggers him saying, okay, now it's time to fucking kill this family.
Yeah,
I guess they didn't live up to the standard that he's
Too
trying
risky.
to maintain. So that's his
I
serial
bought her
killer-ish.
a dog
Yeah.
and everything. I built the birdhouse.
Right.
What does she want from me?
I gave her insane fucking looks across the dinner table. Why doesn't she like me?
We have a stuffed pheasant, a beautiful turkey.
Oh my God. She only saw me having a complete flip out in the basement once.
So, honey, it's just I'm under a lot of stress.
You got to blow off some steam every once in a while.
Which is like so relatable. And I mean, just as far as like
Dude.
the stresses of people and like families normalizing things. The only thing that's different here, which was so great about it, is just that he takes things to the extent of murdering, like
Right.
it's just so, it's a horror film, but it's like just so realistic as far as like you could, abuse of all kinds, physical abuse and mental abuse, all that just within, non-functioning, but trying to look like they're functioning families.
Yeah.
Which is like pretty much most families
Well,
in
and
some regard.
This
some
is
extent.
definitely not a universal, but one characteristic that's common with serial killers is that some of them kill because their worldview is not being met. Mm-hmm. Right? And so he sort of has this worldview of this perfect family.
It's like, yeah, I'm creating the world by...
Right. But that is the pathology, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to create a thing that is impossible to live up to. And
Yes.
so it is validating your desire to kill.
And that's why I had to give it a rent, is because I love seeing that pathology
It's
under
pretty,
this.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And so let's get into what worked then, because I'm about to say stuff.
All right, what worked?
What worked? What worked for you? What worked for you?
It worked like a charm, Smith.
What worked? What worked for you?
They hint at this pathology a few times, but we don't really get to dive into it. But the hinting, I think 2 or 3 times, he says stuff about how he had a rough upbringing. And like, that's the kernel that sort of makes you go, ooh, yeah, like, what's his deal? And I think having that feeling throughout of like, where's he actually coming from? Now, granted, I think you could potentially, I don't know how you would do it, you could expand on that in the movie and maybe get some of that. It's not in this one, but like, it's a cool kernel to have.
Well, yeah, because we see like his stepdaughter, like acting out and getting expelled and all that. And then we just sort of get the whole generational handoff. And that's something I like too, is sort of showing how trauma is like passed on in a way. But like, yeah, when he sort of hinted at his background, not having a good upbringing, I like that it was kind of left vague as to the specifics. But what just was so great as far as showing how he has dealt with that is when he then says, when he explains that, I outgrew my problems and so will you. Which that's the pathology part of it. It's just that idea of like, problems are just something you just, like destroy and leave behind, versus
Actually like process,
assimilate.
Yeah. Oh,
Process
man.
healthily. Yeah. But I mean, that's something I liked about just, I don't know. I thought it did a pretty good job of show, don't tell. And maybe in the end it didn't coalesce in anything, but just as far as consistent throughout moments of playing up that pathology and just being fun to see in a movie, like that's where it really delivered for me. So I just
they really fucking hammer it.
Yeah, which it was fun because it was like to see, like, I liked he found where his next town by looking in one of those magazines that's like the 10 best places to raise a family in America, and like seeing that on the sign, that was great. All his quotes throughout of like, it's not a family without children, you know, as he's just seething through his teeth when she's like threatening to go to boarding school. Girls don't get expelled, you know.
Yeah, I
like
love that.
That's his worldview.
But yeah, that actually is quite cool. Like the character aspect of him being, I mean, he's essentially obsessive compulsive, right? Like the obsession is this worldview, this like ideal. And that's, you know, it's constantly reinforced.
Yeah.
But what I really like about the depiction of that, in particular, the performance that he gives, is that there is no nuance whatsoever in when his worldview is like, you know, being come up against. His reaction is just dead on, like, fuck no.
Yeah.
You know, it's, even if it's just a look, it's like I don't remember, they're at the dinner table at one point and she says something and he like snaps his head around and is like, looks at her and his eyes are like, they're like,
see, that's where I think I just
love how, like, it's just so fucking on the nose.
And that's where I think we'll probably side with my friend and be like, this is what worked. Or I'm just like, well, and that's just great. Like just seeing him do that.
It is when you accept that that's what the movie is.
Yeah. Him, like his quote, "Father knows best."
Oh my God.
Falling to that. But then there's the other ones too, where it's just, I don't know, that really tickled me. Like to show him lying on bed and then laughing at, like watching and laughing at Mr. Ed, where it's just like that connection. Like even someone who, you know, is suffering from this pathology. And this is where maybe we connect it with our generation of parents. Like he's our parents' generation,
right? Of
just like, you know, liking Mr. Ed and, you know, being able to allude to Leave It to Beaver as a point of reference and all that stuff where it's just like, oh, it shows you like that little bit of humanity of like, he was a kid, like enjoying Mr. Ed,
right,
and thought that horses could talk because of it.
Right.
Know?
And I bet that you could kind of dive into that idea of like the character development of like really thinking about where he comes from generationally. Yeah. Right. Because he's essentially a baby boomer. Mm-hmm. Right. So he'd be probably what, 40 in this, we said? Yeah. Yeah. So he's like my dad's age ish. Mm-hmm. So definitely baby boomer. And I think that there is some kind of maybe not the greatest execution of this theme, but it's there, like commenting on that generation.
In a way, this is kind of like OK Boomer, the movie, you know, where
kind of is, you're right.
Stephanie is just like, this guy freaking out. You know, you just have to let off steam sometimes. OK Boomer.
Yeah. Yeah, especially like, but when you add in the mom who's just like, Jesus, not a fucking dimensional character at all. Like, oh, sorry. I'm already just going to talk shit. But yeah, you know, they are of that generation. It's a cool theme.
Yeah, and other moments that just demonstrated him being of that mindset generation, pathology, who he was as a kid, like the whole the backyard barbecue scene where, you know, you just see him trying to he just loves so much when he's like has the daughter and the wife in his arms. All my neighbors here. Yeah. I'm a realtor, one big happy family.
I envy all of you.
Yeah. And then to have that was just a good scene, because then the article shows up, the newspaper shows up, so he just folds it and turns into a hat and creepily puts it on a little boy.
Well, it is an interesting thing to sort of comment on the, like, he's not unaware. It's not a pathology of like, he's not blind to his pathology. So it's not like he can't see what he's doing. Like he knows.
Yeah, but he thinks he's right doing it.
But he knows he's not. Yeah. Otherwise, he wouldn't hide it.
He knows he's not by the law.
Right. That's a really fun, interesting thing to watch somebody's brain, you know, live in that. You know, I mean, it's why I think serial killer true crime stuff is so fucking interesting, because it's not because I like enjoy watching fucking people get killed or have awful things happen to them or think that somehow those serial killers are cool. But the fucking, like, the psychology behind it is just so nuts and fascinating and, like, holy fuck, like, that this can exist.
Yeah.
And why? Like, where does it come from is sort of really the big fascination for me.
As Stephanie put it in the movie that I liked so much, where it came from, or just describing him, she says, it's like having Ward Cleaver for a dad. He thinks we should always be laughing and grinning at the dinner table. Like,
oh, he's grinning at the dinner
great.
table, that's for sure.
The him just continue the kind of, like, I don't know, obvious metaphor things that I just love, though. Him putting up the birdhouse on the giant pole and then it getting, you know, the phallus cut down at the end.
Yeah.
It was great, though. Like,
Yes, you knew that was going to happen.
This is perfect imagery, though.
Right,
like, them cutting it down.
The second before he even put it up, when he was making it, like, you see him, like, put a piece of wood and I think he glues it or nails it to the roof or whatever. The birdhouse roof. Immediately, the first thing I thought is that thing's going to get smashed.
Yeah.
Like, you just know what's coming.
There's a good amount of stuff that we thought maybe was set up that wasn't, though, too. I thought it was good. Like, oh, this freezer wasn't used for anything. You know?
I was surprised, actually, by that. There was, like, 3 or 4 in the first act that I was like, yeah, here we go.
I think, okay, so this movie
The
did...
Saw?
Yeah.
I was like, how the fuck did the Saw not get brought back into this? Come on.
Right. Tools were, in general, like...
Yeah. I like that. I love when he's going through his tools to decide which one is a good one to use, like, to kill people.
Practicing stabbing the air with a knife, and then, like, grabs a hammer and is like, yeah, this could just work. Yeah.
I think that's, to me, the best shit in this movie is just Terry O'Quinn, like, behaving by himself.
Oh my god, it's the best. That was, my favorites were both of his basement freakouts.
The mirror thing that he like, I love that shit.
It's just so good. She's down there. He goes down there and he's yelling to himself, all we need is order here. Order. Why won't they leave me alone? Just, like, going for it. I loved it.
Which is so counterintuitive to, like, what he actually wants. You know what I mean? Like, he says what he wants versus what he's, like, internalizing.
He's yelling he wants order, and then he's hitting the lamp in the basement. He's just so angry.
He ran into that lamp, like, 3 times. Like, his head hit it, like, 3 times. I was like, this is so good.
Just as I think I got pretty on board with it from the beginning, though, of just, you know, all the tone of just like, oh God, this is what this is. But I was able to get on board pretty quickly when it established the, like, what is he as a horror villain? Mm-hmm. Like, with him whistling Camptown races after his murders, I was just like, okay, this is what this is, and I love it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about, you got to set that early.
Yeah, that's
get on board or get out.
That's exactly what I want. And then, like, other just kind of villain traits of his I loved, with, like, he was really smart as far as, like, being able to thwart people, like, following his intuition. I know the psychologist is, or whoever this guy is after me. I know to, like, switch the picture, what Stephanie was trying to do. Yet it's just really satisfying to see that in the face of how brazen he is in his murders, and just sort of lacking, like, what you think is covering up, whether it's sending the car, like, off a hill and just leaving this burning car, or just leaving that his previous family totally butchered, just like walking out of the house, you know?
Yeah.
It's really sad, because I think
that's a pretty typical aspect of a lot of serial killers, is that they need the world to know what they're doing. There's this real high, I guess you would call it kind of narcissism, like the BTK killer. Like, it got him caught ultimately. A lot of this shit gets them caught because they can't resist not the notoriety, like, not getting some recognition for it. Like, they want at least the suggestion of, like, getting recognized for their work. And that's so fucked up. But that's one. I mean,
I don't see him. Well, what's interesting though is I don't see that's where that's coming from for him, and, like, the specificity of his pathology that I think I like love specifically so much. And this is where you see, like, real people like this, just obviously not taken to this extent. That's why it's fun to see it taken to this extent. But he represents the kind of people who I think they have such an obsession with, like, the perfection, again, quote unquote, and, like, what that looks like, what that means to them, that I feel like often people like that, they have a very active, just like flip side of like other areas of their life where that's just not happening at all. Like where someone who may, you know, let's say paint, like have their picture perfect house because they were a fan of Leave It to Beaver as a kid and always wanted a yellow house, yet they only buy like the cheapest appliances, you know,
Sure.
kind of thing.
Sure.
Or like someone who is like obeys the rules at school, like because they need to do this and get certain grades on the report card, but they're the biggest partiers. They'll like drive drunk, you know, just
Sure.
kind of that flip
Yeah.
side of people like this. When you see, because they're holding on to this perfection so hard, they will be the most extreme where they do break it because those happen to be the rules that they don't personally see as important.
Sure. Yeah.
So this whole movie, I think there's a lot of catharsis in seeing that person, you know, take into an extreme.
Yeah. Well, and I think that there's sort of the underlying, the subconscious aspect that exists of like not giving a fuck.
Yeah, that's satisfying to see too.
Right.
Like that's why just him strolling out past the
Right.
dead family, whistling Camptown races.
Right. But I think I could argue that that you can see it as not giving a fuck, and you can also see it as total arrogance, right? Like that he thinks he can't get caught, that he's above it, that there's a superiority like sort of aspect to it.
Mm-hmm. I think those are the same thing.
It's so brazen that it's
Yeah.
sort of him being like, see, I can do whatever I want. It's a God complex type thing,
Yeah.
which is, again, these are all like just the list of serial killer traits, right? Like that's
Yeah.
the movie kind of just checked them off.
Right. I see it like for this character, it's less like what you're describing is, I think, the more like the Trumpian kind of challenging like things. Like I'm going to expose how broken the system is by pushing things as far as they can and not be getting, you know, facing repercussions. But his is that more like, because isn't something wrong with, you know, killing people who deserve to die.
Yeah.
That like, that's just his worldview.
Yeah,
more
I think
so of like what is right or wrong.
Yeah,
Versus
in this depiction, they have made that thing subconscious.
Yeah.
It's not him. He's not actively, you know, necessarily actively sort of aware. He certainly doesn't comment on it.
Yeah.
So it's still fundamentally the same thing. It's just how he uses it, or how much he's consciously aware of that trait.
Mm-hmm. He's just carrying out his worldview though.
That's right.
Like, yeah, I like the sort of fun things too, as far as, when you'd see how he is a good planner, or like where he was good at covering things were just sort of satisfying in a plotting sense. Like I said, the switcheroo of the picture, I thought that was really fun, that whole scene and the tension throughout where the psychiatrist is like pretends being someone trying to buy a house, and he shows up and then we just know like
He's
the
so
stepfather's onto him. And then just in a horror movie sense, like the beating with the board, the 2x4 or whatever that is, where it was so great because like you had those first couple impact hits that seemed so realistic of where you just go,
he's just trying to block it with his arm.
Yeah.
And it's like they seem pretty superficial.
well, it's like it's like how it happens, like that really really hurt, but then it just sort of showed that progression that was pretty horrifying of like, you just keep doing it, it's gonna kill him eventually.
That's Hacksaw Jim Duggan style. That's a reference you don't even know.
Nope.
It's a WWF reference.
Just like you're just like Terry O'Quinn in this movie, the stepfather, saying to Stephanie,
oh yeah,
well, a regular Rin Tin Tin, but you wouldn't know that reference.
Yep, I know that reference.
I know
that
me too.
Yeah.
Just funny seeing in a 30-year-old movie.
Yeah, you liked the dog.
Oh, I love that dog.
That was
cute.
working for you.
Really scruffy.
Did the dog ever get a name? I feel like it did, but I didn't catch it.
That was the whole thing of it. Was she was going to name it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we actually heard it. That was her just sitting with the dog. So cute. Why did he try to kill? Why? There's that moment where it was like he was going to try to kill it. It was like,
It's just to make I think it was purely just to make us have that reaction of like,
yeah.
no, wait, what the fuck?
Right.
No, you can't do that.
Right.
Don't do that.
It was actually fun, to see him doing that. Oh yeah, no, I just reminded me of a scene in the movie Krisha. It was really good if you haven't seen that.
Oh, I haven't watched I watched the first like 10 minutes.
Some people being, honest in front of animals in a way that should. His hairpiece reveal was good too.
Yeah.
That was really satisfying. Like to see a movie where the whole movie you're like are looking at him and you're thinking it's a certain way or questioning it, and then all of a sudden, no, he's a pistachio disguisee.
Even more just to get into it without Terry O'Quinn, I don't think this movie works at all.
Even just seeing him, because like him at the beginning, seeing him in his full beard and glasses, you were just like, oh, this is like, he just looks great as this.
He also doesn't, like, he's unrecognizable.
Yeah.
I was like, holy fuck. Like, I was like trying to remember what Terry O'Quinn actually looks like when he showed up in that beard. I was like, that is so much different.
Well, you just made me realize how neat that is as far as him shape shifting so effectively. Mm-hmm. How that just is, that's his whole exact like thing is, and that's what I loved about probably my favorite, there's all these different kind of metaphor meaning things going on in here, and I love them all, but one we hadn't quite pointed at yet was him, I think it might even be the tagline of the film, where "Who am I here?"
Right.
That was just so good, and that was like when with the little girl at the beginning with him saying the name of the daughter wrong, but then when it finally gets to him not even remembering who his current name, what his current name is.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. Like if you're someone who's so obsessed with just you're only making your identity your image and how people view you, how you have therefore, and again, ironically, tragically, lost any actual identity.
Right.
That you did have by trying to be another identity so hard. That's at the heart of that.
Yeah.
That's just what I loved so much.
I'm not sure that they could have done this, but I almost wish that had existed a little bit more as the movie progressed, that we see that he's not just leading like the sort of double life, that there's like a triple and quadruple. It'd be so fucked up to see that he's like part of why he's getting caught or like caught up with is because he's overdoing it. Like he's what am I trying to say? He's overexerting himself. He's like taking on too much, but that's his obsession. Mm-hmm. So if he had like 4 families at once that we find out about, I would have been like, fuck.
I don't know. I think it
maybe overkill, but
it worked for me as the level it was, like where it actually, I did get just that little much more as soon as it became like the story is he always is overlapping with the next family. Yeah. Like before he kills the current one, he gets set up. So it's just this quick handoff. And that for me worked as far as I think delivering on doing all that you can with that.
So our buddy Jim.
Yeah.
I kind of like you were saying, like I enjoyed it, but only because it's so dumb.
Yeah, I know.
The choices that they made in how to depict this dude and who they cast and like all the things around it, I'm just like,
I think the moment when we both like clapped and perked up and it was like, okay, great, this is just going for it, was when he asks like the police officer, well, what do you think I should do? And he just responds kind of like
off the record.
Yeah, between you and me. I'd buy a gun and blow the son of a bitch away. And we're just like, okay, great.
A cop said this to him. Yeah. A fucking cop.
Between the two of us. And then it was...
And then he's a co-conspirator with that dude, if that dude does that. He's literally fucking like...
But I kind of liked how it didn't matter. It was, he got Halloran, as in Dick Halloran in The Shining, where we have the whole movie of this other person who's supposed to come save the day. And as soon as they get there, they're like the first one killed. It was fun.
Yeah, that trope is a very difficult one to get right.
Is that as far as a trope? The person who shows up and then doesn't save the day?
Yeah.
I mean, everything is in TV tropes, so everything is a trope. But I just don't... I guess I think more is that a... what's the word? Not trope.
Archetype?
No. When when it happens, not stereotype. You don't want to cliches.
Well, that's for sure. Yeah. Well, yeah. Whatever you call it, it's a thing that we see a lot, and a lot of the time it's not done well.
When I saw it, that's
Wrong Turn.
Oh, the cop. Yeah.
Yeah. Every cop, almost always it's a cop. That's generally, or like a reporter, or it's
but
so
there's a
common.
different level as far as like he really was the B story. Like the cop in Wrong Turn, it didn't feel like it was enough.
I agree.
Like I'm saying, where it's really built up as this other character, he's going to come save the day.
It's pretty common.
Okay, fine. We kind of mentioned earlier.
Here's what I really love about Jim. Jim figures out the magazine thing, right? He sees that these pages are ripped out, and he goes tearing over to a fucking his car
library.
Leaves the fucking ground. He's going so fast to get to the fucking, I can't remember if it's going to the library or coming back, but it doesn't fucking matter. He is 1,000 miles an hour. He gets into that library and he's fucking knocking over magazine racks. He doesn't give a fuck. And it's like, dude, there's no ticking time bomb. You know what I mean? Like, yes, there is, but he doesn't really know that there is. It's just an idea. He's like, I gotta get to it.
But that's what's so great. It's because of that dude was cast in this role why it's also great. This
it's such a weird casting to me. He's so cool guy.
That's exactly
Why
it.
is he so cool guy? Is he supposed to be antithetical to
I think
O'Quinn
so.
in that sort of
but just like
he's a he's a Gen X and Terry O'Quinn is a fucking
but the
boomer
thing,
and they're
kind of like the guy in Shocker, he's not cool guy, he's just like a dweeb,
I know. You know who it's like they literally were like, hey, we want the guy from the Breakfast Club. We want that like character from Breakfast Club.
Which if you've seen the Breakfast Club, he's the biggest dweeb. Like,
right.
That doesn't exist.
In and of itself is such a sort of like, in Breakfast Club, it's a purposeful fucking cliche, right? Like he's this character or caricature basically, right? And then in this movie, they're like, it seems like they're just taking that thing and putting it in here instead of actually fleshing out a character.
But I will say that all this that you're saying, it did work for me in the context of this movie.
It did work, but it's just
it's ridiculous.
So amusing, right?
Yeah, that's why it works.
Like he's so like, hey man, hey, yeah, let's do it.
Okay,
I love the fucking scene where he goes to the, I guess it's like the city, like fucking whatever you would call that. The records. Yeah, records department. Yeah. And the guy's like such a dick to him. He's like, "Oh, fucking fuck off. We come back in 2 weeks or whatever." And then the weird receptionist is like, "I'll help you out, baby."
Just these little things that are like,
was just so fucking weird.
Why even have them?
Exactly. But they are fun.
Yeah, exactly.
They're just so.
Okay.
Cheesy.
We mentioned it earlier, but we got to mention it again now that we're actually in this section. His front door freak out, where her and God. Like the boyfriend, almost boyfriend character, they have like. Oh my God! It's just so good because it's like they have their kiss at the door moment, but it takes them so long of like awkwardly standing in front of.
It's actually a really well plotted out. Awkward kiss.
Yeah, but what was just so good about it is when it finally happens, they finally kiss, that timing of just knowing that he was watching them that long is just, it's like so good, that just Terry O'Quinn and just imagine just his eye, man. You can just see him like looking out the peephole or the window or whatever. And then as soon as they kiss, just blink, literal stinger. He swings the door open.
Stinger. Ring!
And it's just like so... I'm glad that at least like the mom was saying the right things here. Like she, at least when confronted, like always, I wasn't mad at there being no voice of reason during his flip outs. Mm-hmm. Like the daughter and the mom were consistent in being like, when he yells, she's just 16 and he goes, I'm too, it's like, yeah. And then when, immediately when he goes, she goes, the mom yells, oh, you just all that work. Or you just ruined everything. And he's like, what do you mean? And it's like all that work that we were at a good place with her finally. And you just threw out the window, Well,
also the real sort of, to hammer home her point when he's like, that fucking, that kid is just he's just trying to fucking, and she's like, dude, I've known Paul Baker longer than I've known you.
Yeah.
Like that kid is not a threat. You need to fucking calm down.
Yeah, it was so good to have like facts being thrown in his face of someone who seems like he's being almost overly logical into his own reality.
Right.
To then be confronted with that, like pure anger in his righteousness of trying to doing good in the world is being able to shot down by these like, yeah, but we've known him longer than you. Like, he's not trying to rape her. Jesus.
It's such a funny fucking like sequence because it's like three really good sort of hits in a row.
Yeah.
The first hit is like obviously the door opening, right? And then him basically grabbing Paul Baker and being like, get away from her. And then the mom immediately showing up and being like, what's going on? And he's like, he's trying to rape her. And it's like those three things happening right in a row were so, like, both you and I just start fucking, we're like, whoa, dude, whoa, what the fuck?
But that's what's so good.
It was really pleasing.
Yeah, exactly. To push it to these woes, like to put a character.
Because you knew he was going to come out. Like, you knew that.
His reality, as he says, was, exactly. His reality was like, he almost had her undressed. Like,
they had practically had her undressed.
And so that they had maybe managed about a half second of kissing before he like threw the door open. Like, as soon as they touched each other. It was like.
And I think actually this is to the point that this is what's scary.
Yeah. Well,
actually.
he believed what he's saying is what's scary.
That's super scary. Like, people who have gone into a realm of unreality to such a degree that there is no fucking reasoning. Like, you can't. What are you going to argue with that guy?
Yeah,
that guy just said he was trying to fucking rape her, and they like. Because nothing about the scenario even remotely suggests it. It's so insane.
And even when they demonstrate the clear evidence and, in face
matter.
of it, he always has a, but.
Right.
Yeah, but.
That's a scary fucking, like, psychology to deal with.
No,
I'm trying to think if I've ever had to deal with somebody. I probably have, but that's a fucking time to, like, walk away.
Yeah.
Like, moment.
I mean, any just... whether it's healthy or not argument, though, I feel is like that, where if you're, very strong belief in something and you get caught up in it, you're mostly just responding to, buts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but.
And like by sticking with it, we can get somewhere. It just maybe takes some time.
Sometimes. I once had a guy end a conversation. We were having a philosophical debate. I won't get into what it was about. It was about religion. But so we were having this sort of philosophical debate of just in generalities of why we view things the way we do based on our upbringing. And I got to a point with him where I just sort of was making the point of like, but how do you justify your belief? Like, how do you know it's true? Like, what caused you to know that your worldview is true? It didn't come out of thin air. Like, you had to learn that. And he couldn't work an angle to sort of...
like his own personal, like, because I went through this, I saw things this way.
Or because it was taught to me. Mm-hmm. Like, he wouldn't even cop to that. Mm. He's like, it just is true because it has to be true. Mm. And I have a hard time with that. I want to kind of pick apart that a little bit and be like, but like, how do you rationalize that or whatever? And he just finally, because we were kind of getting nowhere, he goes, well, I guess we'll just find out when we're dead. I was like, I guess this conversation's over.
Right. I wish there was kind of more to say on just his I don't know. I guess we said enough. Well, like him, I loved how easily he faked like his job interview. There's just something really satisfying about like, and I think that's part of like the fascination with serial killers thing. And just as far as like, there's a lot buried in this as far as like the idea of subverting like this, being aware of the status quo and therefore subverting it. And there's something really satisfying about seeing how easy it is to lie your way into a job just by like the way he fakes those like cordialities,
presentation.
Of like, oh, I've just sold just about every kind of insurance you could name, you know, like picking up that kind of what we see as fake rapport, but
shows
works.
just how fucking smart he probably really is.
And then seeing that also like in the context of him with the poor wife who's like, it's like, honey, that receptionist, she's really been in a lot of trouble, you know. No, I'm still working there. Yeah. Like, but just to see that like utter
incredulity of that moment.
Yeah. Exactly. There's something really satisfying about seeing just like that blatant effect of lying.
Joan, that fucking new girl Joan or whatever her name is.
Yeah,
it's pretty funny. I do love that turn.
Yeah,
the turn is pretty fucking solid.
Yeah.
Of, what? How does he slip up? He calls himself Hodgkins, but why does he do that? He's on the phone.
Yeah.
And he says, hey, it's Bill Hodgkins?
I forget.
It's something like that. And of course the wife is like, what the fuck? And that moment is really fun. The who am I here moment.
And he immediately hits her with the phone and just that turn of like, oh God.
Well, it's the we've boiled over, right?
Yeah.
It's the you know, the moment of no return, right?
And that's what's so fun too, is to see that lying carried to the extent of very much like Jack from The Shining again, of like, I love you, the light of my life, where it's this kind of going straight from him lying in the face to his wife to being like, then that final fracas of Stephanie and the mom fighting him, where it's like you see him keeping up that same guise of whatever role he's currently and actively playing, but now like you could see there's no denying what he's doing because it's turning into physical violence. It's just fun.
It is truly the scariest component of the psychopath mind, which is all of the worldview build up and the how it's presented, the manipulation of the presentation of your quote unquote feelings, like your love for this family or your love for that. Those are emotions, but they actually they're not real. Right? And that's such a scary thing to realize.
Like, if you aren't feeling them, you should acknowledge you aren't versus trying to pretend you are.
That's what the psychopath brain is. Yeah. It's a lack of that actual emotion. Like, they don't have those feelings. They are pretending or manufacturing the appearance of them. And that's realizing that somebody you care about or that you have, a relationship with has always just been essentially pretending is whoa fucked up. Like, holy shit. Can you imagine like having that revelation?
Yeah.
It's mind breaking.
Right. Reality shattering.
You go, wait, all of the things that you've ever said are just a manipulation. They're not even based in emotion. They're just based in survival.
Well, and specifically in this case too, that it's I don't know, there's just some extra horror aspect, but then satisfying too when it's all about keeping up this status quo appearance and what is
right.
real. Actually,
that's part of the survival.
And
he has to have that in order for him to survive.
This is more like thing of note territory maybe, and also tricky territory like to talk about. I put for there, but like I think like in a sort of spiritual, God's plan sense, like it makes sense to me that you have these errant people like on the very, very far side of this unhealthy psychological spectrum existing at all, because it like is reflective of just our system, whatever, our world at large. There's problems with it, and as long as there are, you're gonna have errant factors.
Sure.
I'm not saying that serial killers are good because it's good they're killing people at all. I'm just saying as like I can intellectually understand as far as like there's a built-in, the world supports itself in a certain way. And if something's not going well, it will things will push back in an extreme.
Yeah. Well, I think there is some causality to it too, that you could try and I'm sure you could intellectualize and pick apart.
Yeah. And I don't know, maybe this isn't exactly connect what I was saying, but it connects somehow. We'll try to get there. But I love the idea of and stories about and people in real life who by their exposing the inadequacies of the image of a status quo by trying to fulfill it at all, just by inherently trying to be this normal person, quote unquote, because they're actually a weirdo, they only expose whatever inadequacies that status quo has. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay. I don't
even know how to respond though, because I got to wrap my head around what you said.
Just find that fascinating. I don't know. I'm really interested in that idea of this dude, maybe he wants to, the stepfather, whatever his real name is, maybe who he really is, just wear your polka dot suit and dye your hair red. If that's exactly who you feel, who you are, because we see he's such a weirdo, but
right.
The fact that he's trying to sell, this is, going to the magazine and living the best place to raise a family and having our barbecue and thankful for the turkey on the table. By having someone who just so doesn't fit in, it only just shows, exposes all that is kind of weird about the idea of fitting in at all, of the idea of a status quo at all. Right. And that idea it's a good thing at all.
Well, that's what I mean when I say there's some causality to it, is that he is the product of any number of factors. Mm-hmm. And what he, as a result, is fighting against is what got him to have this worldview. Yeah. Something got him to do that. Well, you
could say it's the cleavers and leave it to Beaver.
Right. You could certainly say that. We don't know. We didn't go down that path in the movie.
I say that as a participating factor.
Yeah.
Just as I use that as example of how it's just sort of all everywhere. It's just ingrained in everything.
Well, and like anything, it's a spectrum. So, the majority of people don't end up in the percentile that go fucking nutso. Yeah. And there's so many reasons for that.
Everything's on a bell curve, I see, as far as people existing. He's on that.
Right. But there is a good, interesting point to be made that had his circumstances been different, regardless of the brain type, would he have, this is fairly well considered as the truth to a lot of this, is that had he had different circumstances, even though he has the brain type of a psychopath, he would have theoretically put that psychopath brain type into something more productive instead of into the direction of killing people.
Or killing people indirectly by being the head of whatever horrible company.
Sure. Or a fighter pilot or something. Something that feeds the thing but is considered an okay version. Yeah. So yeah. That's a fucking rabbit hole and a half to go down. Well, because we're not I'm not a fucking expert in brain
Well, that
stuff,
actually does kind of say what I was saying though, as far as connecting to the idea of someone who clearly their actual self maybe it can be that they're always wanted to play the clarinet, but by then be saying, oh no, but the way to feed what I'm supposed to do is to be this military person. They become like a SEAL. Sure. It's
and it feeds the things that their brain needs, but not in a, depends on how you view
wants.
Yeah. Yes. But this is pretty standard in when you I've watched a handful of things. There's a documentary that's called, I don't know, something like What Makes a Psychopath Brain or something like that. And there's obviously a bunch of factors, but you can find 3 or 4 correlative things that if you get all 4, the odds that you're going to be a violent, killing style psychopath are so fucking high.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what they are exactly. There's something like abuse as a child, head trauma.
It's just the odds of that happening in the first place are luckily not
It's like
high.
a genetic part of your brain that you were born with.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not you had head trauma, whether or not you were abused as a kid, and whether or not I don't know what the other one is. But it's like these things add up, and it's not. And having said that, that doesn't mean everybody who has those things becomes a fucking serial killing psychopath, right? Like that's not what I'm saying. Right. But the odds go up drastically.
At the very least, a noteworthy correlation.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's why I think these stories and this type of, horror is so interesting. At least to me.
Yeah.
It's what interests me. And so, like, even though this movie, I wasn't, like, in love with the movie by any means, but, like, it still sort of tickles that thing that I like.
Yeah. And I think, maybe we're also tying this to, like, fascinations with serial killers and stuff and just stories like this about them. I think that's just interesting too, I guess, as a takeaway and what worked for me, that the appeal also largely lies in a catharsis of exposing the falsities of status quo.
Yeah, for sure.
And especially with Terry O'Quinn just being like, beat it,
right,
punch it.
Yeah. Yeah. So the other thing that I wanted to say is just the final act, I think, has got some, things that worked for sure. It also has a couple things that did not work I will try not to go on a huge rant.
Let's finish this section up.
But
yeah,
I really it's kind of, I think we kind of said it's sort of predictable, like Jim showing up and getting killed right away. You're just like, it took him like fucking 30 seconds to try and get the gun out of his pocket. Hey, Jim, here's an idea. You're going into the killer's fucking house. Have the gun out.
Yeah, and the specifics too of just the fight were fun, of like everyone's falling downstairs and reaching for a knife and just all that stuff.
But I have to say, Terry O'Quinn hitting the fucking bathroom door like just a fucking maniac. Like he's finally really just flipping out. And he's hitting that thing, and then he bursts through it through the mirror into the fucking bathroom is so over the top in fucking the best way. I was like, fuck, yes!
Yeah.
So I love that.
It's great.
It endlessly cracks me up. I love the fucking the fucking attic thing.
Oh yeah,
like
he falls through there. You called it,
dude. I love. It reminded me. I've forgotten the house that in Indiana that we lived in. In my bedroom, in the closet, had the access to the attic. Mm-hmm. It was always a scary thing to me because it's like I couldn't get up there, but I knew that there was this door. It's not a door necessarily, it's just a board on the fucking ceiling that you push aside. But it was always just like being in the fucking closet. It was a scary thing. It made me feel like
it's the underworld.
Like it's the doorway to some other place, which it was. It's the doorway to the attic, which was dark, and I don't think we ever even kept
the doorway
shit up there.
To darkness.
Yeah, but that's a really pleasing thing to see. Like usually we see, I think, typically in a lot of the movies, it's like the pull down ladder thing. It's in the hallway or whatever. So there's something creepy to me about the small space.
Right.
Access
and if you
door.
have a domestic horror film such as The Stepfather, which I feel like should be, how do you take advantage of that domestic setting?
Yeah.
Have them do basement, 2-tiered house, and attic.
Yeah, for sure.
Cover all those floors.
Yeah.
Really.
So I really like that, and it looked cool. There's a couple really cool shots when they're up in the attic. It's lit in a nice and eerie and creepy way. Mm-hmm. There's also a really cool shot when Jim goes back to his sister's house and is standing in the living room that we saw them all dead in the opening. And there's like really beautiful light and like a lot of atmosphere, and there's like beams of light coming through the like slits in the blinds. And it's just a fucking cool, it's like, whoa. This is like, where did this shot come from in this movie? Really like that. I like the stunts of both times the mom falls down the stairs and then when Terry O'Quinn falls down the stairs. Both of those are fun stunts.
Yeah, all that Final Fracas stuff. Great.
I think that's about it for just little moments, though. Yeah. Were there any other deaths? Oh yeah, you already mentioned the doctor's death, which was fun.
And just that first reveal was so good of the very opening. Just that's such a grisly scene of him walking out into after his transformation and straight into whistling.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Do you have anything else?
No, I say we move on.
Oh, I have one more thing.
What?
I'm gonna bridge it.
Okay.
I'm gonna do Orion.
Okay.
I like all of the on the nose creepiness. I guess let's call it the creep factor. Terry O'Quinn obviously is a super creep.
Keeps looking at me weird.
Yeah, he's doing those fucking little looks. The doctor, also huge creep, and I like it, but let's do the things that didn't work.
All right, what did not work?
It's not ready yet.
Seems to work okay.
No, something important's missing.
What did not work?
The fucking doctor, dude.
Yeah, that was actually a main thing I had.
What
was
going on?
Yeah,
with
what was
him?
the point of building up the psychologist to be such a creep? Where it also felt like, was the movie trying to make him that much of a creep? Was it just a character choice, or was it? I felt like it might have just been an awkward way to show, they just totally failed in showing how he cares about her. Because they're trying to justify him going out of his way to help her.
It's so off.
Yeah.
It's so fucking off. She's even borderline sort of flirty sexualizing with him. She's
she's just oh, he's my friend.
Right. But she's lounging on his couch in a sort of prone, weird, borderline seductive manner. It just seems super fucking off. I just was what are we trying to get to here?
Well, it was enough that we thought it was going to build to some kind of betrayal or whatever. She can't trust any adults or men.
Right.
He just died after trying to protect her. It was so weird.
Support some idea of this. I think for me, one of the big problems that I don't know if this was intentional, but I got the feeling that the writers or directors' view of what Stephanie's character is this sort of very, very, how do I put this? I feel like they think a 16-year-old girl is just a sexualized, completely naive, prone to the, the advancements of men that men hold such a sway over her that she can't see anything else. That she's this kind of one-dimensional.
I mean, that makes sense as far as
because there are moments I'm what
you see how they approach the weird teenage romance scenes of her and her boyfriend, her soon-to-be boyfriend flirting, where it's just this is the fakest stuff, hokiest stuff in the movie. Is there awkward, acceptable flirtation age-wise, where just how that is all handled so disingenuously. I think it kind of could point at what you're saying at.
Yeah, I just think that they don't understand, and I'm not saying I do, but I know that their depiction of a 16-year-old girl does not feel genuine or realistic or accurate to me at all.
Yeah.
At fucking all. Even her being she's quote unquote a fucking troublemaker, a bad kid. It's it's so misplaced.
That never even seemed it was.
It's just, I think the conceit is that she's acting out because her dad died.
It just wasn't fully fleshed out
Not
into
even
her
a
character.
little bit. And then this I just think that they have a view of what a 16-year-old girl is that is a 50-year-old guy's opinion of what a 16-year-old girl is.
Yeah.
That culminates with a completely fucking unnecessary and gratuitous shower scene.
Oh, right.
What are we fucking doing? She's 16. Why are we getting full fucking frontal nudity with a fucking 16-year-old character in this movie?
How you're pointing out how these people are writing these characters, it just makes them seem like I totally get it when they're these are the same people who would just sort of pick up on what other 80s movies are doing.
Right.
And a given and just like, oh, so when's the part where there's the shower scene because it's an 80s movie and we have like the young female lead.
I'm sorry, man, but it really pissed me off.
Yeah.
I'm like, we do not, why? Well, I mean, it's the 80s, so I get it, of the time, but I'm not okay with it.
Yeah.
I like not even remotely okay with the sexualization, like the teenage sexualization shit.
Yeah.
What the fuck, dude? Nothing about this movie requires that character to be sexualized. Nothing. I mean, literally fucking nothing. And yet, a bunch of the scenes have this weird sort of like the doctor's fucking looking
it doesn't
and like it's just like what the fuck, dude?
It would exist in a way that is all you needed just inherently with just having, you know, like the dad just kind of wanting to be like domineering and to control his daughter's life. Like it's already there.
Right.
Like you don't need to.
And furthermore, let's just say that this movie was more so through the eyes of the daughter, right? I can get behind her point of view, partially seeing how she's being sexualized by the men in her world. And you can comment on that.
Yeah.
Like you could have that be a part of the story. And I'd kind of be like, yeah, it's really fucked up to see, because she would need to comment on it too. She would need to sort of say like, ooh, this guy's gross. Like, why is every fucking guy I run it? Like, believe me, I hear my friends say this all the time. They're like, I'm fucking sick. Like, a girl I know recently was like, can people stop fucking like fetishizing me just because I have red hair? Like, holy fucking shit. Like, I didn't ask you to fucking comment on the fact that like I'm a redhead and that somehow fulfills some weird fetishized fantasy you have. Like, I didn't ask for that fucking attention. And this, like, I'd get behind this character if we could have more of her having that kind of point of view. If you wanted that in this movie, fine. It's not in this movie at all.
I have to doubt that the 2000 whatever remake did it too.
Oh my God. I mean, I don't remember who's in that, but I remember that movie being really bad.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where, and this happens a lot now, you go back and you watch 80s movies and in the 2019 context, you go, holy fuck.
Yeah.
This is real gross. Like, and we're a product of that era. That's what fucking makes me so mad. I'm like, we as men had to, and boys at the time, that was our fucking touchstone for fucking how to be as a boy or a man. That's so fucked up. It drives me nuts. I mean, thank God we managed to like progress, but a lot of people didn't. And you watch this shit and you go, ooh. And this is sort of what I was saying at the beginning of the of the episode, where I'm saying us pointing out stuff like this hopefully has an impact at least on like one or two people.
It's why we make
not
movies
to do this shit
at all.
Exactly.
It's how we know ourselves.
God,
it's good.
it just fucking drove me nuts. The mom being like just this like, nah, I don't know, whatever, like fucking one-dimensional character. Just fuck. We cannot do this shit anymore.
Well, luckily this movie is 32 years old.
Yeah. So that was, I mean, for me, that's the main thing that didn't work.
I know the other main thing, Tim.
Oh, yeah?
The only other thing, because I had what you had, and then the only other thing, the music.
Ooh. I mean, I would sort of lump in just the filmmaking.
Yeah.
The shots and the style.
It's stupid in a great way, like we already said, when it's the stinger when he opens the door. But like these forced themes of like, you know, when they're playing with the leaves or whatever.
Oh my God.
Where it's just like this kind of like almost what we said about the Grudge movies, where it's like this movie would be so much actually eerier if you just took this music away.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it's
like at the same time, yeah, it's kind of great because
so
it's
amateurish.
Stupid. Yeah.
I think that's my problem with that.
Low budget association.
It's not though. It's like somebody, like the director or producer or whoever was like they signed off.
Yeah,
on
they
that.
still went like, oh great.
Like It's the Looney Tunes problem.
Yeah.
You don't fucking, it's a fucking horror movie. Either make it a satire and make it ridiculous and lean on that and have that work, or don't. Don't try and be a fucking like serious horror film and have somebody going up the stairs and having the soundtrack be like dun 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 dun. It's like, dude, what the fuck? Come on. That weird like carnival-y jingle shit that like happened at one point. Mm-hmm. I just was like, where? She's on her bike. It's like dee 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 dee. What?
Right. What reality am I living in where I'm actually feeling, oh, this is great. Look at her beautiful world. And
it certainly doesn't help make it feel like a scary movie. Yeah. I was like, what the fuck are we watching?
Right. Just take it away. And I would have like her just riding her bike and just watching her do it. Like would have been effective enough versus having to like
fucking odd.
Yeah. Tell us to feel a certain way and then just failing miserably because it's just horrible music.
Yeah. I mean, I guess just overall, and I've said this already, it's so on the nose. Everything is so on the nose. Yeah,
that I guess that is why it's... Yeah, I guess for whatever reason, I guess we kind of already talked about, but like all that on the noseness is what made it great, except for the music is where it would consistently lose me.
Yeah. Like
just too much.
If you made...
Like, I like the kind of too much it was, except for here.
Right. If you made this exact same movie now, and did it the exact same way now, it's a funny satire. And you could lean in on all of that, and the shittiness of it, like the filming techniques and just the look and the feel, like that one, like the amount of fucking atmosphere they put into some of the shots is so over the top. Holy fuck!
Wish we had mentioned that earlier. Or that doesn't more thing of note.
It very didn't work for me. Only in the one shot, in the attic and in the one shot I mentioned before, did it work. But like,
it was just so hilarious. It's like someone was they were like, oh,
more fog.
Yeah. It just seemed like someone was always taking a hot shower in like every room of the house.
Jesus. So it's just like, at the end of the day, it's decisions like that where I just go, what?
I don't know. The fog one was pretty great. Just because it was so...
You thought that was good?
Yeah.
No.
But it's so funny because it's just like, so heavy on the atmosphere. Like, okay, guys, okay.
I have to say, shit, how do you describe this? Manufactured playfulness might be one of my least favorite things in all of film.
So like her and the boyfriend's flirting and then her and the mom playing with the leaves?
Yes. Nobody's good at that shit. Stop putting it in movies. Like, or come up with a fucking more organic thing.
No, I mean, if it's done in this, like, it works in, a movie that's actually naturalistic and succeeding at it. Like Stand By Me, Before Sunset, like Dazed and Confused, like whatever. Like,
but I think that's my point, is that they avoid the problem with it, which is the dorky, hokey, like, that's not really how people do that.
Yeah.
And, if somebody's not super coordinated, make a choice. Like, decide not to make them do something that they're going to look super awkward doing. Like, find a thing that works for them as the actor that they can comfortably do in their body and, like, it can come across natural. This, like, the fucking leaf throwing thing, or the faux punching boxing thing. I'm like, first of all, who wrote that as as a flirtation device? Like,
wait, the faux
do you remember this?
Boxes?
So when Paul Baker and Stephanie are walking home from school, and Paul Baker suddenly is like, he's like something about, oh yeah, you like, I bet you got a good right or something like that. And then like they put.
I thought you meant like boxes and like brown boxes.
No, boxing, like
boxing.
Yeah, like,
no, yeah, of course I remember that.
What? It's not even charmingly weird.
No.
It's super weird.
Yeah.
And awkward, and not awkward like,
it's like it's in that like
it's a thing somebody wrote thinking that that's how kids behave, and it's not.
Movies that are made entirely of these moments are like The Room and Troll 2. It's like that kind of...
Yes. I know a lot of people think that they get some joy out of seeing that. I do not. It makes me just... I just want to leave.
Yeah, I'll always defend Troll 2 as being entertaining. Because it's just like you're stepping into this whole other... Like, what world
That's fine because
is this?
the whole movie is encased in it. I get
it's
that.
consistent into itself.
Right.
And that's what's so... But when it's more isolated, it's just that much more frustrating and egregious. I agree.
So shit like that really, it just makes me... It's really hard for me to stay on board with the movie at all once stuff like that. I'm just like, I don't fucking want to do this. Meh.
Hence, stream it versus rent it for Tim.
Yeah, that really is where it comes down to. So,
how about things of note?
Yeah.
All right, things of note.
Things of note!
This should be interesting.
I only had one, but it was a good one, Tim.
I got a couple.
You want to go ahead?
No.
Okay, great. So this is more just kind of the serendipity of our hat that we pull from at play here.
Ooh.
It's pretty incredible.
Okay. I'm ready. What could it be?
Shelley Hack, who played the mom in this film.
Yes.
Maybe you were kind of recognizing her as,
Definitely.
where do I know her from? She plays the mom in The First Troll. Opposite of Michael Moriarty, who plays the dad in Troll.
Harry Potter.
Yeah, who stars in our last film that we reviewed, The
Holy
Stuff.
Shit.
So we had the dad from The Stuff, and now... No, so sorry. The dad from Troll in our last
Stuff.
movie, and the mom from Troll in this movie.
Wow. What a fucking... Shit, the hat knows.
Is that great?
That's absurd.
We had the parents from Troll represented across these two films back to back.
Jesus Christ. What the fuck? That's cool. I have a couple things. Just one, because we're kind of shitting on the director here. He's done movies that I kind of dig. So, he did Dreamscape. Do you remember Dreamscape?
Oh, yeah.
I really like Dreamscape. He did...
Dennis Quaid, right?
Yep. Sleeping with the Enemy, which is pretty fucking good. I mean, maybe it's not now. I'd like to go see it again and see if it holds up. The Good Son, which I really liked. I saw The Good Son in the theater. I remember that. Money Train I never saw.
It makes sense that the person who made this made The Good Son.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That movie takes on a pretty interesting tonal mix as well.
Yeah. But, you know, that's to say he's done, you know, it's not the worst. So, the script for this is loosely sort of based off of a serial killer, or not serial killer, mass murderer, a guy named John List, who the fucking John List story is so fucked and so cool. So I'll give a really, really, really brief summary rundown. This is like the 70s, well, late 60s. He loses his job. They're a very well-to-do sort of family. They live in a really fucking nice house in New Jersey. And he ends up killing his entire family. I think including his mother, who lived with them, I think, if I'm remembering right. And then he fucking disappeared. They did not... He was a fugitive for... I would say almost 20 years.
Right, like I'd honestly be surprised if this movie hasn't happened.
There probably is a movie based on this. I don't know. But it's a really, really cool story. Essentially, the stuff that they got for The Stepfather from that story, one of the big things was for months and months after he lost his job, he just went through his daily routine as if he still had the job, for just to keep up the appearance for his family, I guess, for the neighborhood or for whoever the fuck gave a shit.
Keeping up with the Joneses.
Like, he would dress for work, fill up his briefcase, have, breakfast in the morning, get in his car, go to the fucking train station, get on the train, go somewhere, fucking go to a park or whatever, hang out, eat lunch, like until the end of the workday and come back. Like he did the whole thing for months. And then I don't remember really if they have a sense of what kind of drove him to finally just lose it and kill everybody, but he ultimately did. It was 3 children, wife and mother, and 3 children. So his own mother, his wife, and his 3 kids. He killed all of them, and then he put them in. If I remember right, he put them in they had a ballroom. They had a huge house. They had sort of a ballroom room, and he lined them up sort of in a weird ceremonial way. Nobody knew what the fuck had happened. He left the lights on. He did all sorts of shit to cover his tracks when he disappeared. And so the body, nobody knew that the fucking family was dead.
Yeah.
For a while, couple weeks at least. I think a neighbor came by and was or a teacher was this is very unusual that the kids aren't back. I guess they had said they were going on vacation or something like that. And I think it was a teacher that came back and was we should fucking look in.
Wait, sorry, I missed, this was the story that directly inspired this. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a really cool story. There's lots of stuff to go down.
That's one way to put it.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. I think the one thing that, if I remember right, the one thing that was sort of the holy shit caveat of this is that all of his woes seemingly were stemmed from losing his job and not having enough money to keep things up. They had a Tiffany's stained glass skylight in that house that was worth a fucking ton of money, way more than what he owed to the banks and all of that. If he had just sold that one thing, they would have been fine. But sort of the insanity and the pride of all of it is what drove him.
Gotta keep your nice car.
But he did get caught, so that's cool. Anyway, John List.
We already mentioned there are 2 sequels and a remake, and will totally watch the sequel knowing that Terry O'Quinn survived. The stepfather lived.
Wow. He got a knife in the heart.
And shot, right? Yeah, a few times in the back.
He got shot at least twice.
Fell down the stairs and stabbed.
Yeah.
And was seemingly unconscious, but his eyes were closed versus open, I believe, which always seems more
ooh. I'm really disappointed that she didn't just shoot him right up the ass, because she had a clear shot. He's on the stairs.
You were yelling, Tim, shoot him in the balls! Shoot him in the balls! Yeah, right there!
And he deserved it.
All right, very last thing of note, the composer, Patrick Philip Moraz, Tim's favorite, are all our favorites. He was a member of the Moody Blues from 78 to 91.
I love the Moody Blues.
Me too. But I love them based off their pre-78 era, so
ooh.
I don't feel so bad separating them that way.
Cool.
And yes, he played in.
Well, there
74 to 78. All right.
We did it.
Tim.
Yeah, buddy.
It's RecommenDEADtions time.
It sure is.
What are you going to recommend, Ed?
This is a loose recommendation.
We don't have loose recommendations.
I don't know, but I haven't seen anything good lately. The thing I watched last night is okay.
And you still want to recommend it? That's not a recommendation.
I know.
I'll go first.
Okay.
Because I thought I had recommended it before, but I didn't. Looking at a record, I don't think I had. But because I mentioned it earlier, the movie Krisha.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
You said you watched the first 10 minutes of it, though, right? That's it?
Yeah, I for whatever reason, I couldn't.
But it was working for you in that amount. Mm-hmm. I have it on Blu-ray. I can lend it to you. It's kind of, I don't know, man. If you've seen it, it's good. Whatever. I need to tell you why.
All right. So since I talked about John List, let's do this. If you want to hear more about him in a fun way, listen to episode 29.
Say the name again.
Of what?
John
List.
List.
Yeah, no. So they cover John List on My Favorite Murder, the podcast, in episode 29. And it's pretty cool.
Great.
That's mine. There you go.
29, My Favorite Murder, featuring John List.
Yeah.
Tim, it's your turn to pull from the hat.
Oh, fuck yeah.
What will we be watching and talking about?
A movie with Noah Hathaway.
What?
Noah Hathaway? Is that his name? The
Who's
kid
that?
from the Neverending Story who is also the son in Troll.
Oh, yeah.
In the Mouth of Madness.
Yes! This is the one I've been really excited to talk about.
I think I started this once too.
I admittedly have
I do
seen
that
it
a lot.
I watched it like about a year ago, not knowing it was in our hat, but I'm like,
Yeah,
it's
really?
got to stay in there because it's just, I want to see it again and it'll be great to talk
It's
about.
Sam Neill, right? Or is
Yeah,
it that one?
Sam Neill, yeah.
Okay, cool.
In a John Carpenter film.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, sweet.
My favorite I've seen of his 90s era ones.
Wow.
Great, good stuff.
All right.
Yes, Tim, we're going to win. I'm excited. Cool. Well, if you haven't seen it, you should watch it so then you can join us next time on Dismembering Horror when we're going to talk about the film we just pulled.
Mm-hmm.
In the Mouth of Madness.
In my mouth of madness.
You can find us until then at dismemberinghorror.com.
That's true. You could also email us at dismemberinghorror@gmail.com.
Yeah, and follow us on Instagram. Guess what? At Dismembering Horror. At Dismembering Horror, where we post a poster of the film we're talking about and a bunch of stills from our latest episodes.
Yep.
And we're there for you to talk to, should you want to talk to us, because we'd love to talk to you.
It's all true.
Great. You know what else is true?
No, you tell me.
Well, we thank you all so much for joining us. In closing, I just said it like Yoda. I didn't mean to throw you off.
I am so thrown off. I just stared at you blankly like Baby Yoda.
Thanks for listening. In closing,
And see you next time. We will.
goodbye.
Bye.